Hi everyone, welcome to today's Fairground Jam. My name's Sunny and I'm a developer advocate on the community team. This is an ongoing series that takes place every Thursday at 6 p.m. BST, and we take a deep dive into a certain aspect of Vega protocol, and we have a special guest. So today that aspect is our latest DOGE-ems incentive, and we will also be recapping our last few liquidity provision incentives. As always, there's some quick housekeeping before we begin. While Chris is presenting, feel free to ask us any questions in the Twitch chat and he'll answer those at the end of the call. So let's begin with our special guest. He's actually one of Vega's OGs. Chris, would you mind introducing yourself?
Thanks, Sonny. Yeah, I've definitely been around the Vega halls for a few years working on this project. Loving it so far, and my latest and greatest team that I'm working with is community. It's been a pleasure to work with everybody on this team so far. I'm the developer advocate, original developer advocate, I'd say, at Vega, and now we've got a team including Sunny and hopefully get more in the future. My role has changed a lot over the years. I've been a core engineer and I've been on various other teams. And enjoy just getting involved with as much as I can to try and build this software. And today I'm going to talk about a lot of the things that Sunny mentioned, including the new incentive that is running, and give some helpful hints and tips maybe around that. So without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about DOGE-ems, or DOGE-ems as we're now calling it. And this is an incentive which is new this week. As Sunny mentioned, last 2 weeks we've been testing LP orders and liquidity provision on Vega, which has been really successful, and I'll come on to that in a little bit, but thanks everybody for participating. This DOGE-ems, play on DOGE-ems, the original trading game that we ran last year, and you can see the two little guys in the Fairground disguise back here. We're carrying on with this theme, but with a playful look to the market which underlies this, which is Doge USD. It's a fake market settling in a custom asset called XYZ Alpha. If you took part in the last incentive, you'll have used that built-in, that fake asset before. It's one that's handy for trading games because we can allocate it to particular wallets without too much work. And you can use it in console, you can use it as you would any Ropsten asset, etc. So this new incentive is a trading game. And the idea of the trading game is to rise to the top of the leaderboard with the most profit. So there is a profit algorithm which works behind this, which is deposits versus general balance, and whilst the trading game takes place, it's general and your margin account. So the live leaderboard, which is on fairground.wtf, shows the current positions until that market is settled, and that's the score that you can see on the right hand side. Eleganza P on the screenshot behind me has +34, so quite a decent return, 34% on their 1000 XYZ Alpha that they got. So well done them so far. I hope that continues and they get to the end and haven't been wrecked because it's quite a volatile market. So how do you participate in this? You need to register for Twitter registration, which is the same process. You can go to fairground.wtf to see all of this information, including information on the incentive. And you register your Twitter account to your Vega public key that you're going to be using for trading. Step one. A lot of the community will have already done that, and that's great. You can reuse the same wallet, the same public key that you've used on Fairground before. So that's a nice, easy thing if you've done that. The difference now is you need to head to faucet.fairground.wtf. Again, this is linked in the incentive brief, and that will give you a link to a form where you put in your Twitter ID, and then once or twice a day, Sunny or someone else on the team will send you some XYZ Alpha. You can only do that once per public key and Twitter. Once per Twitter is probably the more accurate definition. So that will give you 1,000 XYZ alpha, which can be used to trade on the Doge USD market, which is live on console. You can also use API scripts or your own custom software to trade via the APIs. A lot of people might just want to use a console, which is available at console.fairground.wtf. And here's a little example. It's not the Doge market, but this shows you around the UI. The collateral will be shown at the top there. You'll have XYZ alpha, 1,000 of those. And then you'll be able to use the deal ticket on the appropriate market that will be listed and submit your orders to that market based on your trading approach. Can't advise on that. Obviously, this is a real trading game. We might, in some of the questions in a minute, go into how the market moves. But this should be a pretty straightforward directional trading game with lots of information that you can look at on Discord as well. So if you head over to our Discord server, which is vega.xyz/Discord, get on there, and there's lots of people discussing all aspects about how this works. And one final thing, actually, this is the first heat or the first round of 2 competitions where we're going to be able to let people trade. So the same thing that's happening this week, which is from Wednesday to Friday, you'll be able to join the competition, get your 1,000 XYZ alpha and trade on the Doge USD market. And the idea is to get the most profit, the most return on your 1,000 at the end on Friday when the market is settled. Full details all in the incentive brief. Next week, Wednesday to Friday, we're going to do exactly the same. And then you'll have obviously, if you participate in the first version, got a handle on things and got an idea of what your strategy might be or how you might have done. And then the next week, the 2 or 3 top people who've ranked on the leaderboards, in addition to the rewards that are in the incentive, will get some limited edition Vega swag, an opportunity to chat on a Fairground jam like this and tell us how you got on with the incentive and everything. That's completely optional. The swag, if you'd like it, would be definitely sent to you. So that's about it for now on how the incentive works. But I think Sunny might be interested in maybe asking me some questions about this and maybe common things that we need to look out for as people in the incentive.
Yes, so we've had a lot of activity on Discord and a lot of people asking questions, which is always great. We love that. And we use the Fairground Jam as a source of information for everyone. So the first question for you, Chris, which a lot of people have been asking is, how does, and you alluded to this earlier, is how does the price move in this market? So it's, Doge USD is a real market. Are we tracking it exactly, or does our market move away from the for example, the price on CoinMarketCap? How does that work?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And I know a lot of people will be interested about this. And the way that markets on Vega work is they're completely permissionless. So what we tend to do is set them up. And in this case, for incentives, we tend to have some liquidity provision going on, or some market makers already in the market providing prices. And they'll probably try and keep the price as close as they can to maybe the current external oracle. They'll be trying to market make and provide prices around that of the current price feed for Doge from an external oracle. However, directional traders such as those in competition, or even LPs themselves, can move the market away from the price feed or the feed price, and they can actually create a new current market price. So the market itself is almost living in its own, like every market has its own controls. And there's a lot on this topic it goes much further than the software of Vega. It's sort of efficient pricing in markets. And for us, we do have some market makers on this to try and keep it close to that current price. But as in any market, it can swing away, and it can actually go in one direction or the other depending on If people are aggressively buying, if there's a lot of people aggressively selling or buying, it can drive the price up and down in its own organic right. But when the market settles, it is highly likely that the market maker's settlement of this and termination will be at that external Oracle fee price or near of Doge to USD. So just bear that in mind as it continues on. But obviously the price has a market in itself. In a real world, the inefficiencies that we might see if the price jags quite far away from that price would probably be countered quite aggressively because of people's actual assets and the management of that within a market. But that's a super interesting thing in itself. So check out the efficiency of markets and how gaps happen and things like that. If you have a chance, you might already know about that.
The next question, Chris, is so popular that it's been asked again while you were speaking, which is, how do I, so people have been trading on this market and they've been asking, how do I close my open positions?
Yes, this is a very common question, oddly, because it's a derivatives trading system. When you actually open a position, you're taking out some contracts in a futures market like this one. And when those contracts are, those orders for those contracts are placed, effectively they wait for a position to be made. And if you look in console here in the background, there's a positions panel. So option one you have is to look at your positions. So if you've got positions in Doge USD, for instance, you would have a line here, and then in the right-hand side, there's a little close button. You can hit that, and that's a shortcut for actually placing a trade in or an order in the opposite direction to null out your position to zero. Obviously, what can happen is you can make a order for, is this example, limit order at 10 at that price, and it's good till it can be cancelled. And it might be that, say, 5 or 6, let's say 6 of them have already been traded. So you have 4 remaining. You would only be able to close that position for those 4 that are remaining. That's one way. The other way you can do is you can look at your current orders, and you can place orders in the other direction. That's probably the simplest way to close your positions, hitting that button in the bottom right. If you have any problems with that, jump on Discord, let us know, and we'll try and help you out.
Cool. And the next question was around quantity. So you mentioned about closing orders and those kind of orders, and you mentioned a quantity of 10. In this market, what does that mean? A quantity of 1 or 10 in Doge USD? Is that 1 Dogecoin?
Yes, a super question. Again, because we're trading futures here on these markets, it's not a spot market like some of the other exchanges. Because you're trading futures, you're buying contracts on a futures market. So what you're doing is you're buying effectively, in this example, 10 contracts at a price of 10.79468. So with Doge, you're not buying 1 Doge. When you place an order, you can set your, in this case, a limit order. You'd like to buy 100, for instance, 100 contracts of Doge at 0.14289. That will set your position up for 10 times that number of orders. So what happens there is it will try and allocate margin to you to actually provide that based on the current living situation of the market. So if you want to place 1 contract, that's very similar to any futures product out there, where you can just set how many you'd like, and you kind of multiply it. So you know the price, you know how much collateral you've got, and you can just try out 1, see how much that affects your margin, or you can use the margin estimate tool. You can see that on the bottom left there, where it says the margin estimate that I need is 2.306. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Again, ask any questions in Discord. We'll be super happy to answer you.
Awesome. And one thing you mentioned earlier on was that this time participants are filling in a form, and then members of the Vega team are then forwarding them some XYZ alpha. So is there a reason for this new system? Because before in our LP incentive, people were able to force it themselves. So people have been asking about the reasoning behind this and why this needs to be done.
Yeah, we are looking at other options, but right now, the simplest way to control the amount of deposits on this market is to have a gatekeeping form, just to keep it fair. In the faucet, if you have unlimited money, you can do what you want. You can manipulate the market quite heavily, and we've seen that in the past. So with a trading game like this, you really want to keep everybody fairly neutral. There are obviously edges in everything. In the future, we may change this methodology, but this is working quite nicely. And it's also a good thing to, sort of interact with people and talk to people about it. If there are better ways or different approaches that the community would like to see towards this, then just let us know. In the future, we'll probably return the faucet, but probably put a different, slight different mechanics around it.
Awesome. And you've shown people here how to use the console. Another common question was, can I also use the API scripts in this incentive, just like the liquidity provision incentive?
Absolutely, yeah, you can. But I would, unless you really know what you're doing with LP, you might have learned it during the last one. It might be easier to use either your own software or the sample scripts for placing orders that way. Most people probably use the console because it's sort of easy to see what's going on with the market. But if you're interested, you can use any of the API scripts. You can use any of the APIs that are out there, and there's some really good examples. One called create, amend, cancel orders. So that's a good one that I linked to someone in the channel about an hour ago.
Awesome. And another question was, a lot of people have been signing up and have been making trades on the DOGE-USD market, but they haven't been able to see their names appear on the leaderboard yet. So did you want to cover any common errors and mistakes that we've been seeing that have been stopping people from getting onto that leaderboard?
Yeah, in this incentive, you need to just make sure that your Vega key, your Vega public key, or your Vega address, as some people call it, that you're using to trade is the one that's mapped to your registered Twitter account, because we can only reward people and people can only participate in incentives if they've registered a Twitter at the moment. And I mentioned that at the beginning. What's probably happening is people are not using the same public key that's registered to their Twitter. The good news is all we need to do is sign the message again and tweet the message again out, and the bot should pick it up and then update your Vega address on the Twitter account. And the next time the leaderboard refreshes, your name will hopefully appear near the top if you're doing well, or unlike me, near the bottom. So let's ask for any more questions on DOGE-ems on Twitch, and I'll happily answer those now since we're on this topic. If we don't get any more, I'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a question on Twitch. It's not really DOGE-ems related, but we don't have any more DOGE-ems related questions. So I guess we could cover this now, which is, so Vinay is asking, when are we going to see leveraging on testnet? Do you have any kind of insider information on this?
Well, leverage is available completely through testnet already. So if you look in your positions, often it shows the margin that's allocated to you. I will check with the team as to the feature roadmap for what's coming up for displaying that and how that's going to be used, but hopefully we can give good tools that show how much leverage or how much margin you receive on your products as well in these different markets. I think there's a lot to be said about the way markets are created and the parameters that are employed for them. I'm probably not the best person to talk to about the protocol design for upcoming features, but let's carry on this conversation and see if we can get a little bit more clarity maybe in the next jam or in the research hours.
Absolutely, sounds good. And since we've covered the things going on in our DOGE-ems incentives, it might be good to update people on how our liquidity provision incentives went, both round 1 and 2. Obviously, we saw a lot of activity. We saw a lot of people signing up. And so did you have any updates to share on that front, Chris?
I do. I really appreciate everybody taking part in that. It's the most difficult incentive in a lot of ways that we've run, because you needed to understand the mechanics of Vega, which is, in itself a learning exercise, but also have some background into how market making or how liquidity provision actually works on many exchanges, which is beyond everyday person's understanding of finance. So I hope a lot of people really learned a lot for themselves, just outside of testing the software. We've had some amazing results so far. There's been some winners and some losers, and the results from LP1 were published by Dan on Fairground.wtf. So if you haven't seen that, go to the previous LP incentive, the first one. Your names will be on there. And the second one finished, so we're going to be looking to upload those incentive winners in the next day, I would hope. I'll speak to Dan again about that and get a complete ETA. But both of those will look to start sending out the claim codes probably the end of next week, or as soon as the Treasury gets approved, whatever sooner. We have got a little Easter holiday in the middle, so resources are a little run down at Vega for a few days, but I'll keep prodding away and see how we do there. But yeah, thank you everyone for participating. There's some nice rewards, especially in the second one. And a bit like this incentive that we're running, we'll probably do this again in the future. So it's definitely worth keeping practicing and understanding what's going on. And then we'll hopefully give out more rewards in the next one as well. And we'll just keep getting your feedback and try and improve the process as much as possible.
Cool. And the next thing to discuss in terms of new aspects of the protocol, I guess, is our new release for the Vega Cli wallet, which runs on the terminal. So, Chris, did you want to guide our viewers through what's new with that and what's been going on with the front end team?
Yeah, you've completely stolen my my thunder, but yeah. Vega wallet, it's okay. Vega wallet is obviously the wallet tool that we use for managing transactions on Vega, and there are two different types: is Vega Wallet Desktop and Vega Wallet Cli, which is the terminal version. And the team have been working very, very hard in the background to improve both. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the very latest and greatest cutting edge Vega Wallet Cli, which has just been released. And the main change that we're testing out with this on Fairground is something called in-wallet transaction approval. So if you use a Ledger or even MetaMask or any wallet, often you get a confirmation prompt before a transaction is signed and submitted. I think any of the big dexers, etc., you usually get a prompt that says, "Are you sure you want to submit this?" It's a really essential security feature in DeFi, and it's not without its problems. So I'll sort of go on to the next slide and show an example of what happens on the terminal when you submit an order or try and stake some tokens or submit any command within Vega. The default from this version, 0.14, so I would recommend, unless you want to use this feature, stay on 0.13 for now. I'll come on to that in a minute. It's compatible with testnet. And what happens is if you submit an order, as I say, or any other command, you'll get a prompt on the command line which says, do you want to approve this transaction? It will show what's going on above, the public key, and the order ID, etc. So it's a nice security check. It's definitely in line with what most people expect within blockchains and crypto and DeFi in particular. I welcome this change because it will stop malicious people accidentally tricking me into sending orders or something like that. That said, if you want the default behavior, which is seen in 0.13 and below, you can use the flag -- automatic consent every time you run the wallet service to have it automatically consent yes to your transactions. So the big caveat, and why I said perhaps I'm personally going to stick with 0.13 for a little longer, is that until the validators release a new software version, there's a note in the docs or docs.vega.xyz that says, if you want to use mainnet, this wallet version might have some quirks or incompatibilities in until the validators, which are community validators, vote to adopt the new software version, which is fully compatible with this. So for Fairground, it will work absolutely fine, but just if you're running mainnet, just beware on that one. Is that fairly clear, Sonny?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a great run through.
Oh, one thing. The desktop wallet has not been updated to include automatic consent or transaction approvals yet. So if you download the desktop wallet at the moment, as we create this video, it still doesn't require this. So it's only the wallet CLI that we're talking about right now, very bleeding edge 0.14 release.
Cool. And without wishing to steal your thunder again, Chris, this time I'll just ask you, is there anything else to do with the protocol that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yes, I don't mind really. I was only joking, but we have replaced Nolt with Vega's own well, we call them discussions, but it's actually GitHub discussions, a very common thing for any developers. All of our code's going to soon be completely open source. So it makes sense to have the issue tracking and all of the conversation for issues and features next to the code that we've released. And if you go to https://github.com/Vega-protocol/feedback, you can click on the discussions tab at the top, or you can go to the full URL and you'll be greeted with this rather lovely and very nicely designed board, which is all the discussions that are ongoing and the tickets. Much like we did with Nolt when people were giving feedback on features and bugs, you can now use this portal to create new discussions or look for existing discussions and comment on them. So I would really encourage people who hit any problems or want to talk a little bit more about the incentive features or console to go on here and actually create tickets or look for existing threads and comment there.
Awesome.
It'll be a little bit better than Nolt. I think it is already.
Cool. And so I think now it's time for questions. We've pretty much gone through most of the questions in the Twitch chat already. So we're pretty much good on that front, unless there's anything to add. Oh, there was one thing, which was Edo, who was curious. He's asking the big questions today. He was asking about your pixelated dog, your pixelated Doge in your slides. He wants to know where that came from.
Very exclusive image repository. I couldn't comment on here, but we can chat offline. It is a very cool little GIF, totally not stolen from the internet somewhere. Well, thank you, Sonny. It's been a pleasure as ever. You know, I really encourage people to just reach out to us. We're generally hanging around on Discord. Coverage might be a little bit reduced this weekend because it is Easter holidays, but we'll always try and check in with people. As again, the incentive finishes tomorrow, so you still have a chance to get on there and try and trade better than me. I don't seem to be doing very well at the moment, but I'm not actually taking part for any prizes, so it's probably a good thing.
That's a good see.
Great. Thank you all. If there are no questions, I think we need to wrap up now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to reiterate one point that Chris made, which is that we are going to be force-sitting people one more time tomorrow morning, so it's not too late to fill in the form and get yourself involved in our DOGE-ems incentive.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sonny.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And thanks everyone for watching. And until next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.